So the next item on the agenda is the Commission statement on cryptocurrencies' need for global standards. And as always, we will begin with the Commission, and therefore I will give the floor directly to Commissioner Brunner, who is now here with us. Please, and very warmly welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. President. Honourable members, first of all, sorry, I'm a couple of minutes late. I was in the office actually, but didn't make it here on time. Sorry, sorry about that. And also thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this debate on the need to agree on global policy standards for crypto. As you may well know, these standards, of course, do exist and have been agreed in international fora. Let me give you a brief overview of how they came about and where the EU stands in their implementation. International regulatory and also policy organizations have been working on international crypto standards for a number of years. Now, early on, there was an international understanding that crypto markets are global markets, are largely unregulated and pose, of course, also risks that need to be addressed. And then in 2023, the G20 unveiled the Crypto Asset Policy Implementation Roadmap, which reflected the policy and regulatory responses developed primarily by the International Monetary Fund, the Financial Stability Board, and standard-setting bodies covering specific areas of finance, such as the International Organization of Securities Commissions on investor protection, or also the Financial Action Task Force on anti-money laundering. The core of these international standards on crypto are the FSB recommendations on crypto asset markets and activities and recommendations for global stablecoin arrangements. And the European Union is the first major jurisdiction to have reflected those standards in law. We have done this by adopting the regulation on markets in crypto assets, so-called MiCA, which is now started to apply. And we have also amended other legislation, such as the anti-money laundering directive and also the transfer of funds regulation. And we are strongly committed to ensuring the global implementation of international standards. We regularly advocate this in the relevant international fora in which we as a European Union participate. Implementation of international standards, of course, is necessary, not only to ensure a minimum level of policy and regulatory convergence internationally, but also to ensure that jurisdictions follow a sensible, common denominator in addressing the risks also posed by the crypto markets. And this is particularly important in crypto markets which are global in nature, of course, yes, everyone knows that, with crypto exchanges and platforms operating across borders, and assets also moving on open networks that are widely accessible. And the adoption of international crypto standards has so far been incremental. Indeed, jurisdictions have made progress also in implementing the policy and also the regulatory responses developed by, as I said, IMF, FSB and standard-setting bodies. Almost all FSB jurisdictions have plans to develop new or revise at least existing regulatory frameworks for crypto. Information gathered at the international level suggests that the majority of FSB member jurisdictions expect to achieve alignment with the FSB framework by this year, by 2025. And this is, of course, very good news. We will continue to support relevant international organizations to ensure that the momentum we have now in implementing international standards on crypto is maintained. And we stand, of course, ready to work with jurisdictions that wish to benefit from our experience with MiCA. And this includes, of course, also the US. The US has been heavily involved in defining, together with other partners, the international standards on crypto. And I'm convinced that the new administration is fully aware of the fact that the robust policy response to crypto requires also an international effort. We therefore look forward, of course, to continue working with the US authorities as it considers its policy approach to crypto assets and related service providers. And we would view it as a positive development, of course, if the US were to make progress on crypto-specific legislation that would provide greater legal clarity on the treatment of crypto assets and related service providers, while at the same time also, of course, addressing the risks we are facing. And we believe existing international standards should form the basis of any crypto framework, including, of course, the one in the US, not least because they ensure international convergence in this area and contribute to a level playing field. Our experience in the European Union has shown that ensuring legal clarity is the right way to support innovation in these markets, while mitigating, on the other hand, of course, also the risks we are facing. And developments in the crypto markets since the adoption of MiCA have only strengthened the case for legal clarity. Whatever approach the US ultimately takes, we do hope it will ensure that innovation flourishes while allowing, of course, on the other hand, also bad actors to be weeded out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Brunner. And now we will take the round of speakers on behalf of the political groups, and starting with Mr. Ferber for 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, President, Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen. Various cryptocurrencies, above all Bitcoin, in recent days have seen new records. And the reason is clear. The new administration in the United States has taken office this week, and they're going to be much more crypto-friendly than the previous administration was. The new US president is in fact talking about strategic Bitcoin reserve being established and making the US a crypto mecca of the world. Donald Trump is serious about this. You can see by the fact that he himself has his own meme coin that has only one goal, and that is to just increase his wealth a degree. And I don't think investors will be falling for it. But whatever your view is on cryptocurrencies, this development constitutes a problem. Cryptocurrencies are a global issue, but we have no international framework of norms. A change of administration in the US has very quickly meant, therefore, that the market situation has changed very quickly, and consumer protection for European investors as well has been left unprotected. We're seeing the financial markets, from the banking sector to the clearing sector. We have international standards for good reasons. And in the crypto sector, we don't have that. So it's high time to do that. We have the MiCA, the Market in Crypto Assets Regulation. So we are in the breach here. We have a very credible framework that we've established so that we don't have the Wild West rules that we've seen in the US, so that we can have predictability and planability as well for everybody involved. There is a blueprint for international minimum standards that's been established. So, Commissioner, if we want to use this blueprint and find international solutions, it is a good idea. It's not going to be simple, but if we don't ever start, we'll never complete it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Fernandez for 1.5 minutes, please.
Gracias, Presidenta.
Thank you, President, Commissioner. I think we could all agree that we need international standards for crypto markets. And listening to the Commission, you're saying that we need minimum standards, so you appear to be saying this too. But if you just take a glance at what's happening on the other side of the Atlantic, shouldn't we start thinking about the fact that having good intentions is all very well, but we may need to do more to protect Europe? Donald Trump's issuing his own currency, as Marcus Ferber said, his wife too, in the run-up to his taking office, showing a lack of respect for that office, in my humble opinion. But I think we should be getting that message in Europe. We should be hearing loud and clear that we just can't count on the US administration. We won't be able to count on them for minimum standards on cryptocurrencies over the next few years. So, good intentions, which we've had for years, they're all very well, but I think we need to be more assertive. We need to apply MiCA. Of course we need to apply MiCA, but we also need to protect our own financial sector, banking sector, insurance sector. Look at crypto-derived products coming into Europe too. We need a digital euro to give our own response to emerging needs that investors have.
Next speaker is Mr. Pampi for 2 minutes, please.
Private cryptocurrencies are spreading and are not regulated by democratic forces. We see huge variations, and they cannot be reserve assets. They're only used for purely speculative purposes. They are phantom assets that are not backed up by economic strength. It is a mirage used for shadow dealing. It's a technological game. It is brilliant, absolutely, but there are real risks of circumventing central banks. There's a risk to traditional currencies. We are seeing the fiscal pressures in France rise to alarming levels. What the health crisis showed is that governments may run counter to freedom, so governments may see cryptocurrencies, or citizens, investors may see cryptocurrencies as a safe haven for their assets. We need to look at guaranteeing real currencies, properly manage public finances, so we don't see capital flight.
The next speaker is Ms. Melon for 2 minutes, please.
Szanowni Państwo, Unia Europejska.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to the introduction of the MiCA regulation, the EU has become a global pioneer in the regulation of the crypto asset market. And that means we're moving out of the grey area. What's established in MiCA include reporting obligations and established internal control mechanisms. And this means that there needs to be a separation of clients' assets from the assets of cryptocurrency service providers. These are the foundations that ensure that there's greater transparency and security for investors. It's also important that the member states' interests are protected from non-euro area member states. Cryptocurrencies have no boundaries, but it's obvious that there are differences between the regulations in countries which can significantly reduce that issue. So global regulatory standards need to be brought in. The EU is leading in this field. However, it needs to be cautious so that it doesn't overly choke this sector. We also need to look at markets outside Europe that might take over in that case. Cryptocurrencies have reinvigorated and revived dreams of some of the investors, but some of these dreams now are somewhat weaker because crypto Currencies, nevertheless, will remain as part and parcel of our world economy. Our task is to make sure that cryptocurrencies are dealt with as financial instruments, and of course we need regulations to achieve that. But we need to have regulations that make sure that we'll have safety for investors and not stifle innovation. We can't miss this opportunity. The future of the cryptocurrency market requires a balance between the protection of the interests of customers and the further development.
1.5 minutes, please.
Merci, Madame la Présidente, Monsieur.
Thank you, President. Commissioner, in the US, Donald Trump dreams of being the crypto president. The result, a cryptocurrency bearing his image, another dedicated to Melania, Bitcoin soaring, and the resignation of the chairman of the US Securities and Exchange Commission. During this chaos in Europe, we made a different choice: regulate to protect. With the MiCA regulation, we laid the foundations for a secure cryptocurrency market, imposing robust measures against money laundering, such as verifying identities and reporting suspicious activity to protect ourselves against terrorism too. Yes, cryptocurrencies have advantages, whether they be new investment opportunities, encouraging young people to get engaged in the sector, or providing vital support in the face of corrupt systems, or in war zones, such as for the Ukrainian diaspora. But they must not become a global jungle for fraudsters and criminals. And to those in Europe who are flirting with the American Bitcoin leaders, are you aware that their real aim is to bypass our official currencies and sabotage our monetary system? Strange bunch of sovereignists. And with AI, or minimum taxation, Europe must push for a global framework. Cryptocurrencies must not become an El Dorado for cheats, but a tool for everyone. Act now, Commissioner, to adopt minimum standards to protect the sovereignty of Europe, the euro, and our fellow European citizens.
Den næste taler er hr. Andresen for 1,5 minut. Værsgo.
Seit knapp einer Woche gibt es den Trump Meme Coin.
We've had the Trump meme coin in place for about a week. No real economic value, a way for his followers to link up with their idol. The funds flow into the coffers of the Trump family. When President Jimmy Carter was elected in the 70s, Trump was already engaging in fraud. Now, what about crypto regulation? We need to be concerned about what is happening. Crypto assets come with great risk. There's a real danger of money laundering. There is no real added value through cryptocurrencies. President Trump is paving the way for unfettered deregulation. He is weakening the financial regulation and allowing for privatization. Let me be clear, that cannot be the path we take in Europe. I am pleased that the larger political groups have expressed scepticism and made it clear that we need international standards and that we cannot go down the same road as the Trump administration. Thank you.
Mr. Andresen, I just want to let you know that it's not allowed to show images here in the hemicycle when you're speaking. Please remember that. The next speaker is Mr. Tridico for 1 minute, please.
Signora Presidente.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, Commissioner, while in the US, with the assumption of power of Donald Trump, Bitcoin has reached unprecedented levels with a meme currency from Trump that's going to win him millions. In Europe, the debate on the digital currencies has been bogged down. It's something that would be very useful. If you had a digital euro from the European Central Bank, that would be a public response to help us. and we would be able to have a stable method of payment, which is not in place at the moment. But this project's been blocked by a number of political parties at the moment. We don't have the force and power to have our own way of approaching this. But we would be able to have an independent strategic European approach to this to stop the Americans from monopolizing electronic payment markets. And we'd be able to build European infrastructure for digital payments. And we would help consumers and sellers of any manner. And we'd also be able to stop the flight of capital and tax evasion that costs 824 billion for tax income for the welfare of Europe every year.
Next speaker is Mr. Aust for 2 minutes, please.
In
recent years, we have seen a global increase in surveillance. Governments can monitor their citizens. And we've also seen a rise in cryptocurrencies. During COVID, Canada saw government critics have their accounts closed. They struggle to pay their rent. So cryptocurrencies have blockchain technology and prevent citizens against state overreach. That is a good thing. We want to ensure that our money can be protected against state manipulation. We're seeing pressure from central banks. Since 2001, the euro has lost over a third of its purchasing power. Citizens are looking for a currency safe from manipulation. That is the promise of crypto. We heard about Bitcoin being used to finance terrorism and drug trafficking, but most of these crimes are committed using euros and dollars. We stand for the sovereignty of nations, but we also champion the sovereignty of citizens. We trust citizens to make their own decisions. We would like to see more innovation, such as Bitcoin. We want to make it possible for non-politicians that don't understand this to avoid manipulation. The Trump administration has made it clear, let's not be afraid of innovation. Let's seize these opportunities, including technical innovation in the financial sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I have opened up for the blue card option if you would like to use that. And the next speaker is Ms. Doherty for 1.5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, we spent the last one here intensively talking about the importance of innovation, and it's clear that despite all of the risks it entails, crypto stems from a desire to innovate and operate outside traditional norms and structures. And in general, legislators and regulators should focus on creating the conditions for innovation and sectors to thrive. But in this case, there's vital issues of trust, consumer protection, and there's obviously the serious potential for financial crime that still exists. And yet, on the other side of the Atlantic, we hear the promises of the new administration of the sector, even as the President's own meme coins were launched and then crashed and lost half their value in the space of one weekend. And I think there's serious questions have to be asked about a situation where the most powerful politician and one of the richest men in the world can self-enrich himself through a scheme while purporting to be in charge of the regulators of that particular innovation. And while these questions go unaddressed, the cryptocurrency industry will continue to face serious pushback by some of us in this chamber and outside. The EU's legal framework for the sector seeks to promote innovation while tackling market abuse and the very large elements of criminality. And its full implementation has literally only just begun. It's in its infancy. So I hope that when we eventually come to review and have an international standard, that our efforts will be used for that global standard. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Mr. Heine Lohme for 1.5 minutes, please.
Despite the hurrah mood in parts of the crypto world since the election of Trump, it's important to look at the facts. I see at least 3 reasons to remain concerned about this bubble. Firstly, despite all the measures adopted, crypto seems to remain the favourite tool for sanction evaders and gangsters, including cocaine cartels, North Korean hackers, Iranian and Russian spies, and fentanyl smugglers. If we want to tackle this problem seriously, let's hit them where it hurts. Secondly, as well outlined by ECB, the recent rise in Bitcoin value benefits mainly a happy few at the expense of the many. From an investor protection perspective, this is far from optimal. Finally, in times of high energy prices and energy scarcity, investing in infrastructure to mine bitcoins is wasting energy. Therefore, it's good to have this debate. We indeed need global standards for crypto to tackle these challenges. And the EU should take the lead, as MiCA and the AML package can give some inspiration. But we should go further, and we need a MiCA 2 to close remaining regulatory loopholes, for example, around NFTs and decentralized finance applications. We count, therefore, on this new Commission to pick up this role and push this agenda forward.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Nikolic for 1.5 minutes, please.
Comme avec Internet, le cloud.
We can see once again that when it comes to crypto money, we are lagging behind the US. More than 8 million French people are involved in investing. Now, of course, we're worried about how to invest in this new technology, the famous blockchain. But the question is how to regulate this, how to tax the profits. And when it comes down to it, that's what terrifies you about crypto. It escapes your technocrats. You want to regulate this, but we're just wondering how to make this work to our advantage. How can we use these technologies to boost our competitiveness? Rather than taxing this, let's try and push for investment in this area. Let's encourage people working in cryptocurrencies to help innovative companies. Let us not have a Musk running things. Let's have a European Musk instead. We need to make crypto useful. In order to do that, we need to get rid of the useless technocrats.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Pelletier for 1.5 minutes, please.
Partout, le
socialism leads to ruin around the world. Cuba and Angola, countries around the world are poorer than ever. Now the left is looking to impoverish Europe. In France and elsewhere, the left are constantly coming up with new standards, new restrictions, new taxes. The old left are decrying success, hard work. Let me say to all of you, leave us alone. When are you going to support entrepreneurs? You are sabotaging their skills. Technocrats are talking about cryptocurrencies, and this is a real sign of a sleeping Europe destroyed by socialists. You are looking to damage and diminish entrepreneurship in Europe. The world at large has chosen freedom through Donald Trump, Elon Musk and Javier Milei, and you are looking to condemn our future. You know plenty of left-wing people who, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, fled to the West. The world is waking up, but you want to remain asleep, hibernating. Listen to me careful. We don't want you anymore. We don't want to be regulated or taxed. We want to be free.
Next speaker is Mr. Boyer for 1.5 minutes, please.
Madame la Présidente.
President, Commissioner, cryptocurrencies are increasingly popular, it seems, falling outside all financial legislation and with full anonymity as an instrument for speculation. Some will get very rich at the expense of others, but there's no benefit to the real economy. It is up to public powers to organise a circulation of currency, to adapt to new practices and to ensure stability in the use of the euro. This is the digital euro project, a digital wallet, an equivalent to a physical currency, with the European Central Bank underwriting it. Unlike cryptocurrencies, it would be guaranteed, securitized, and even where you can't get online, you would be able to use it, and it would have similar anonymity to physical currency. It will allow the EU to conserve and further develop its monetary sovereignty in an increasingly digital world. Co-legislators should move forward rapidly, not least the European Parliament.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Böselager for 1 minute, please.
Cryptocurrencies themselves are just a technology, but I always have to get a bit careful when I see how excited the far right gets about a certain technology. And it just reminds me of a saying that I've heard recently, which is, not all crypto traders are gangsters, but all gangsters are in crypto. And now with Trump also launching his meme coin, which I think had a value of 40 billion market cap at some point, we really have to ask ourselves how we can get better. The good thing is we already have great standards with MiCA here in Europe that enable the innovation that we need and fight the misuse and the risks that we can see by people trying to agglomerate power and money without end. So what we need to do now is to really set up global standards. We need to transfer MiCA into global standards so that we can have the innovation that cryptocurrencies can unleash, but fight the risks that are there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Ms. Martins for 1 minute, please.
Thank you, President. There's been some kind of financial fraud in every period in history. There have always been frauds and scams, and this is the latest one, cryptocurrency. Unscrupulous people like Trump set up their own cryptocurrency. People decide on their own rules. He's the president, so he sets the rules. It's like a pyramid scheme. And Trump and his acolytes will get rich, but ordinary people will lose out in the dollar zone and in the eurozone. This proposed legislation is a normalization of a scam. It's basically deceiving citizens and setting up crypto assets with contagion to markets, ignoring expert advice from Silicon Valley Bank, past experience, and so on. We should prohibit cryptocurrencies, prohibit the purchase and sale of them by banks to protect people from this huge scam.
Mr. Stoyanov for 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The cryptocurrency is an alternative to the traditional currencies regulated by the central banks. In the last decade, the Bitcoin has shown its potential to change the global financial landscape through decentralization and anonymity. The Bitcoin is now reaches over $2 billion market realization. It is sustainable and stable. Therefore, whenever we speak of regulatory measures, we should be very careful, because this should be done after consulting experts in the industry. The regulation should be based on the basic principles which make the cryptocurrency so successful, which is decentralization and anonymity. If we undermine this, we can undermine trust in the cryptocurrency. Money has been created by people, and it should serve them. Let's leave this market free. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner colleagues. Cryptocurrencies carry the promise of innovation, but also a number of risks. Millions of people see them as an opportunity, but unfortunately there are many who, because of fraud and a lack of clear rules, have lost their lifelong savings, and this requires major caution from governments and their institutions. We cannot rule out cryptocurrencies. They do carry and bring new opportunities in finance, independence and investment, but their development must be anchored in clear principles. One of the clear principles is also the right of citizens to pay in cash, which I consider a major freedom which needs to be protected. New methods of circulation of financial means must not mean the extinction of the old ones, which are there as a safeguard in the whole system. Cryptocurrencies and blockchain could be jeopardized, for example, by a big development in quantum computers. We need to be ready for all this. This is why I call for the creation of a global standard which will ensure the protection of users, their compensation in case of fraud, market transparency, taxation rules, and also the respect for financial rights of citizens.
Kolar for 1.5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Világszinten növekedik a kriptoeszközökbe való befektetés.
Around the world, we are seeing growing investment in crypto assets, but we all know how risky this is. Trading in crypto assets must be approached cautiously. We need to be realistic in our approach. I think it is good that Europe decided early on to adopt regulations and push for global standards. We know that financial crises do not stop at borders. We also know that cryptocurrencies offer opportunities for black market financing. We need also to remain competitive, but tread cautiously, ensure high standards. That is the course of action we need to take. It is also important that people receive information on these assets so that they can make good decisions in managing their own assets. That's the way to strengthen Europe.
Madame la Présidente.
Madam President, Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen, without regulation, the crypto assets would not be covered. These are financial instruments and they'll be taken advantage of, and we would be taking advantage of as well. We know that ISIS and other terrorists use these, so we see a hostile and violent environment in which this is happening. So it's interesting to see that people today are shouting at us about the problems here, while the Trump administration has destabilized the market himself with launching his meme coin. This kind of experiment of having the law of the jungle when it can't be reined in. Now, we've always said that we have to have rules at international level. We need to protect our people. We need to reinforce financial stability as well. So this is a high time we have this debate. We need to make a headway on the digital euro and on our own bit tech developments.
Very much. Next speaker is Ms. Androuet for 1.5 minutes, please.
L'essor des crypto-monnaies est un défi.
This is one of the major challenges our states and the EU faces. These alternative systems, such as crypto assets outside the control of central banks, put our monetary sovereignty at stake. We need to ensure economic stability and protect fellow citizens. While Europe is sitting and thinking, others are making rapid progress. In the US, they're supporting these new technologies and making use of them as a strategic lever worldwide, with investment in digitalization. Europe cannot sit back and let this happen and have over-regulation. Yes, we need a safe, transparent environment, but We can't just sit back and let this happen to us. We need a paradigm shift. Digital technologies such as blockchain can encourage the emergence of competitive European solutions for our economic and monetary challenges. We shouldn't let people on the outside dictate their standards. Let's build a Europe that dares to do this for itself and become a world leader. We can be strong and visionary if we do that.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Axinia for 1.5 minutes, please.
Mulțumesc. Un aforism care a devenit cel.
Thank you. In recent years, we have heard time and again that rules will be created whether you want them or not. MiCA is a good example. Regulation of cryptocurrencies. The European Union believes in controlling and regulating, but what the EU does not understand is the root cause for crypto. It all comes down to trust. Citizens trust these currencies and they don't trust the complex rules and the political order. They want to protect their assets against inflation. And bypass a system looking to control what citizens do with their money at all times. Attempts have been made to control financial flows, for example, banning cash payments. We'll end up like China, where cryptocurrencies are banned if we continue down the current path. That we need to learn from the new Trump administration.
Friends, cryptocurrencies are undoubtedly a huge technological development which bring positive opportunities, such as a more inclusive currency, faster cross-border transactions, and revolutionary possibilities through blockchain. In Europe, we should not ignore crypto, but let's not pretend that it is going to be an easy path. There are real challenges here: price volatility, illegal activities, and a lack of consumer protection. These are legitimate concerns which require real action, but at the same time, we should not over-regulate out of fear. If we stifle innovation, there's a risk we could lose out on this momentum, which could make Europe a global leader in the digital economy. Apart from that, we need to be smart, forward-thinking, and flexible in our approach. There is a need for regulation to promote transparency, such as strict measures to prevent money laundering and consumer protection. But we also need to foster innovation by working with private innovators and creating flexible frameworks. We have a unique opportunity here with crypto, and we should seize this opportunity. Thank you.
Antoshi for 1 minute, please.
Grazie, Presidente. Thank you, President. Good morning, Commissioner Bruno. And we're seeing a huge increase in the use of cryptocurrencies by illegal operators. Blockchain, which is making rapid transfers of money possible around the world, which is helping out criminals around the world. And they're very advanced technologies that are being used by these criminals, and we need competent people to be able to combat this. We need to have people with appropriate training. Also, the increase in use of cryptocurrencies has meant that the primary resources that are used by criminals are also gaining in value. We can see that cryptocurrencies in some member states is increasing the wealth of major criminals, and we know that Interpol needs to be on top of this. It's absolutely essential that we have a coordinated approach to have global standards that are shared by all in order to have an effective fight against the illegal use of these technologies. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Subnevsky for 1 minute, please.
Dziękuję. Noblista.
Thank you. Nobel laureate Friedrich von Hayek said that there is no answer as to why a monopoly on issuing currency is necessary in today's world. When after the 2008 crisis you protected the banks from a collapse which you had indirectly led to, programmer Satoshi Nakamoto said enough. He said enough of the moral hazard used by governments and banks. He said enough to the spoiling of money by issuing it. He said enough of counterfeit money and created Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the best candidate to become a true currency. It's rare, divisible, difficult to counterfeit, and above all, it does not recognize the dictates of banks and governments over it. It is solid. Your attempts to restrict it only make it stronger. Listening to your debates, I think I know what the answer to Hayek's question is. He said that the worst monopoly in the hands of governments is the monopoly of money. You want to destroy cryptocurrencies because they are non-state means of exchange that win out over invigilated, over-regulated, decreed money. However, remember that it is the people who decide what is a medium of exchange, not governments.
Please.
Mulțumesc, doamna președintă, stimați colegi.
Thank you, President. Honourable members, Romania saw a tragic financial operation in the 90s. We saw the system, the secret services working with those in power to empty the coffers of average citizens. And then in the early 2000s, we saw planes flown into the World Trade Center, and it was all about combating financing of terrorism. And in the intervening years, we've seen a growth in cryptocurrencies, people turning to crypto assets. There are also measures taken by governments preventing citizens using cash. We're looking to regulate this through MiCA and other measures, but we're not able to take action that will help citizens looking to take serious action on cryptocurrencies. Thank you.
Well, you are on the speakers list, so therefore I cannot give you a blue card. It's clear in the rules. The next speaker is Ms. Pereira for 1.5 minutes, please.
Rather than exporting legislation, Europe needs to export innovation. Let's be clear, we weren't pioneers in the technology that supports crypto assets, and we should have been. But we didn't waste any time creating regulations, obligations, and bureaucracy. It is clear that crypto assets require a legal framework. They are a financial asset, so there are minimum requirements for transparency and, very importantly, investor protection. But it's also clear that these laws must guarantee security and predictability for those who want to innovate and invest. If here in Europe we're not guaranteeing one thing or the other, how are we going to defend global regulation? Firstly, we have to ensure that the regulation of markets in crypto assets is well implemented. Secondly, we have to support innovation in blockchain, realizing that it is a technology that is not limited to cryptocurrencies, but can and should be applied in other areas. Thirdly, we have to realize that cryptocurrencies are now financial assets like any other. Attempting global regulation has an impact on free competition, market dynamics, and people's financial freedom. We can't live in a financial Wild West when we talk about crypto, but neither can we imprison new projects, new ideas and new investments that create jobs and opportunities. This is no longer the time to be suspicious of everything new. It's the time to trust those who innovate, who invest, who make a future in the present.
Thank you. Let me just be more specific on the rules of blue card. The rule I used before was Rule 178/10, and the rule states that you're not allowed to use a blue card to ask a person to which group or affiliation you belong to. So that was the reason why I was not allowed to give you the blue card. But you feel free to use the blue card for other persons than people belonging to your own affiliation. Thank you. And it is stated in the rules that that also goes for non-attached members. The next speaker is Mr. Papandreou for 1 minute, please.
Chair, Mr. Commissioner, from this discussion, I think the answer is staring at us in the face. We have two distinct philosophies, one on one side of the Atlantic and one on the other side. The U.S. is free market, let it bloom, let's have the Trump coin, and then we regulate. Ours is, let's regulate and see what happens. What's happening now is, besides the criminal activities with crypto, it's also used by poor people in countries with inflation. So they put it into a crypto, a very unsafe coin, and then use it, turn it back into their currency. What we need to do is to create the Spinelli coin, which is the digital euro, and to have our own digital crypto competing so that we can impose international standards with safe assets from Europe. We will not be able to regulate the huge space from the rest of the world unless we have our own digital coin that people will trust in, not only in Europe, but internationally. MiCA helps on that. The way we'll impose international standards on MiCA is by having our own innovation in our own Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a blue card. Do you want to accept the blue card? Thank you. From Ms. Ivanovici Sususka, seat 858, please.
Mulțumesc. Ați vorbit.
Thank you very much. You were talking about regulation.
So, please.
Mulțumesc. Ați...
Thank you very much. You were talking about the MiCA regulation. There's a rule that mentions that people who are carrying out transfers with cryptocurrencies have to be people with legal personality, and they have to be able to prove that. They have to be able to act in a professional fashion. Can you tell me, because you're a lawyer, how do you come to the conclusion that these people are conscious and acting appropriately and decently if they are offering these sort of currencies? Thank you.
If I understood the question, we have two ways of using crypto. One is companies which invest, and the other is individual purchases. Those are two separate entities. The companies that use crypto to invest need to be regulated. The individual using it for purchases is not a legal entity and comes under different rules, if I understood you properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to specify, not for you, but when you take a blue card, it's 30 seconds of a question. The next speaker is Ms. Furet for 1.5 minutes, please.
La blockchain cryptocurrencies are born of a simple thinking. Restore control to individuals, strengthen transparency, ensure fair access to open systems. Decentralization, transparency, security, these are essential values underpinning this revolution. Blockchains now go well beyond financial systems. They revolutionize management of digital data and financing cut across borders. This calls for global cooperation. However, despite the huge potential, there are risks, fraud, unequal access, lack of clear regulation, and that is where there is a responsibility incumbent upon us. We need global standards, not to stifle innovation, but to set a framework. We need to ensure security for users. We need to favorise decentralisation and ensure the right environment for innovation. Europe has taken steps, adopted MiCA, and has partial regulation. We now need to act as a bridge for global dialogue. Blockchain is a unique opportunity for a fairer system. Let's work together to steer this revolution towards a more open, more prosperous future. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Krut-Tilek for 1.5 minutes.
Chair, Commissioner, we need to approach crypto constructively. Since last year, MiCA is in force, and I believe that its implementation is without major issues. In Czechia, thanks to our MEP Jiří Havránek, we have managed to promote the automatic right to establish a bank account for crypto businessmen, but also being free from tax when you are selling cryptocurrencies after 3 years. I believe this could serve as an inspiration for other member states. Ideas such as taxation of unrealized profits from the sales of cryptocurrencies, this is something I would not recommend. The US approaches differently the regulation of cryptocurrencies, and I believe that achieving a global standard right now is out of question. This is also why we should be careful about any further regulation here in the EU. It is important that over-regulation and an unpredictable legal situation do not encourage startups to move out of Europe. When we are discussing blockchain, this is a technology of the future, which offers a number of practical applications. Next Tuesday, I am hosting in Brussels an event. You are all kindly invited. Among other things, a project by the Czech Technological University will be presented. This is about an innovative blockchain platform for the decentralized issuance of bonds for SMEs. Please stop by.
Hatsi Pantela for 1.5 minutes, please.
Πρόεδρε, Επίτροπε, αγαπητοί συνάδελφοι.
Thank you, President, Commissioner, honourable members. Cryptocurrencies will revolutionise financial sector and could be very interesting. The EU has adopted a regulation to ensure greater transparency, more investor protection, more stability. That will also make it possible for this to be incorporated into the EU system. There is a lack of clear rules at global level, and that has caused scandals, shaking investor confidence. We need a clear system. In Cyprus, banks are highly reluctant when asked to open crypto accounts by companies. However, if we get the right framework in place, banks might feel more confident, and we could see a growth in cryptocurrencies. We know that the US has made it clear that they will be very crypto-friendly moving forward. We cannot wait any longer. We need to be proactive. We must take this opportunity, innovate. We need clear, fair rules in this sector at global level. The EU has the wherewithal to lead the way here in cryptocurrencies, and we need to prove our worth here. Thank you.
Librani for 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioner. Cryptocurrencies, which were a very niche issue, have now taken over all over the world. New markets are opening up other sectors as well. There's a huge potential in blockchain technologies which can lead to profits for the public sector, for example. It can lead to more effective systems. At home, we're now looking at how we can use these technologies in the care sector, so we can share confidential health data, for example. It's important we do promote new technologies when they arrive, but also there needs to be a degree of control as well. We shouldn't have technology that damages consumers, that leads to money laundering or terrorism. So we're now seeing crypto, which exists at global level, and so we need standards at global level so we can draw on the potential and not stifle it, make sure the technology is used correctly and not used by suspect nations to damage consumers and the systems that we hold so dear. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Solier for 1 minute, please.
Presidente, Comisario.
President, Commissioner, the MiCA regulation has been presented as a regulation of crypto assets, but it's actually a direct threat to citizens. Under the pretext of protecting citizens in the financial framework, it's actually going to undermine financial freedom and innovation. Having global standards for a basically decentralized system is to hinder it. It will mean there'll be no sandboxes for startups. It means that we won't have innovation for crypto. It will mean citizens are not free to choose. This excessive approach, the over-regulation, will remove any incentives. Are we really intending to protect citizens, or are we just protecting certain economic interests? We cannot allow for this approach to undermine decentralization, autonomy and freedom.
Is Questor Kovachev for 1.5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Commissioner, dear colleagues. The European tech sector faces challenges that creates a perception of stagnation compared to dynamic regions like Southeast Asia and the EU. Yes, in the US, EU is a global pioneer in the introduction of regulations such as the MiCA with the aim to protect customers, but without to hamper the growth. Yes, we need a global standards, and the EU must be in the lead of this introduction, but also we need to wake up. Talent migration is a big concern, with 90% of the EU tech workers willing to relocate to the US for better salaries and funding opportunities. To reclaim the position of Europe needs innovation-friendly policies, including clear regulatory frameworks and sandbox environments for startups that will promote prosperity and growth. The rapid development of cryptocurrency markets highlights the urgent need to educate people on how to navigate the evolving landscape responsibly. Without proper knowledge, individuals and businesses risk falling victims to scams, fraud, financial crimes, or malign global players. Europe needs to act now and act fast. And if we are serious about our fostering competitiveness and to act together with the responsible crypto community and not in a war with them. Are we ready to take bold decisions to ensure our success, or will we risk again left behind as others seize opportunities which we hesitate to explore? Commission and Council and colleagues, we need to act now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Buda for 1 minute, please.
Doregulować, przeregulować.
Regulate, overregulate, and then kill. This is the method of acting of the EU in many issues. This happened with companies, with farmers. Now we're talking about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. It's going to turn out that the entire world is making money with it, and we do not treat it as a chance, but as a threat. Major assets in crypto are being held by China and the US, and in the EU we're thinking about how to limit it. 1 billion people in the world are going to hold crypto assets very soon. In Poland, 12% of people in working age hold cryptocurrencies. So do not overregulate it because it's going to kill the market and everybody else is going to make money with it. Of course, irregularities must be persecuted, but let's do it reasonably. Right now, it's very difficult to do anything. Those who are going to make money of it are going to do it. And there is no development in Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Ms. Kenichi for 1.5 minutes, please.
Grazie Presidente.
Thank you, President. Commissioner Brunner. Follow the money. This is the method to really go after organised crime and fight organised crime. And that is what, for the past 40 years, Italian investigative judges have been doing. Follow the money. And the European Prosecutor's Office is not following this mantra. If you have virtual money, then, of course, fighting organised crime becomes more difficult, and you have more opportunities for organised crime as a result. There's low traceability, the scarcity of controls, there's lack of traceability, and you can move money across borders very quickly, and you can have complex change of transactions. And these are just some of the reasons why cryptocurrencies and blockchains are useful instruments, increasingly so, for cross-border crime gangs and for terrorist organizations that act globally. With cryptocurrency, you can pay for weapons, human trafficking, and it allows for illicit capital to be laundered and to be reinvested in the lawful economy. So we need to fight this phenomenon. There's the crypto asset markets that we need to go after, and we need new rules on seizure and money laundering, and we have put matters in place. That said, the EU needs to continue to have uniform standards and rules so that we can stop organised crime from using any gaps in our legislation to their benefit. And we really need to go after organised crime and the impact on our economies. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Kelly for 1.5 minutes, please.
Digital and cryptocurrencies present an important opportunity for Europe, provided we establish the necessary safeguards. We must strike the right balance between regulating to enhance consumer protection and promote financial stability, while ensuring we do not hinder innovation or impede the financial inclusion that cryptocurrencies can offer. The micro-regulation demonstrates Europe's willingness to lead in establishing best-in-class regulatory frameworks. Recent events, such as the collapse of the FTX in November 2022, have shown why proper standards are essential to protect our citizens from irresponsible and even fraudulent market behaviour. However, the new Trump administration's pro-crypto stance provides an opportunity for us to reflect. We hear from the crypto industry that the US is now becoming a more attractive jurisdiction than the EU, with its regulatory approach expected to be looser than ours. On this, I make 2 points. One, here in Europe, we must approach this industry with the same competitiveness lens we apply to all sectors. It is vital to monitor the impact of our regulations and remain adaptable enough to amend them if needed, ensuring we maintain the right balance. Two, those in the crypto industry eyeing Trump's America with enthusiasm might reflect on the Trump coin debacle before this week's inauguration. Be careful what you wish for. Ultimately, the cross-border and decentralised nature of cryptocurrencies demands international cooperation to address clear regulatory gaps, as was stated by the Commissioner and my colleague Markus Ferber. So let us collaborate closely with our global partners to establish clear and enforceable global standards.
Thank you very much. We have now reached Catch the Eye, and I have 6 speakers who will get the floor today. We will start with Mr. Goiking, seat 417, please. Remember, 1 minute.
Klappt? Ja, danke. Is it working? Thank you very much, Madam President. Commissioner, the original idea of cryptocurrencies is to have a global decentralized financial system. And that sounds great, but Bitcoin itself is very risky. 60% of all Bitcoins are maintained by just 18,000 addresses. Now, it's a Wild West mentality, really, that's that we can see here with Bitcoin. We've seen Trupcoin as well. But at the end of the day, everybody is trying to find people who want to pay more than than others have already invested. This is a whole approach based on greed for profit. Cryptocurrencies are a potential catastrophe for fraud. And it's very difficult to have proper rules to be implemented without the help of the USA. For progress, we need to have global standards. That's what we need. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Ms. Grappini, seat 541, please.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner. We're afraid of tax evasion, but this shouldn't make us prevent innovation. Of course, cryptocurrency is a result of innovation, and you said it rightly. We have a regulation, we have a directive. We're considering international standards because, of course, we're not alone in this world. We have a global market where we work. But in my opinion, the issue is that we should not prevent citizens from using their revenue. We should not prevent companies from investing as they please, and we should have rules that everybody should obey. And you said that you want to take out harmful actors, but you should also consider on how to do this. We need a lot of transparency. I don't know whether you have statistics, for instance, of the number of tax evasion cases in the EU, for instance, or scams where cryptocurrency was used. But we need to have this, and I think we should have this aspect of innovation in mind, of course, with a correct supervision.
The next speaker will be Jungblut. Mr. Jungblut, seat 613, please.
Ja, vielen Dank.
Thank you very much indeed. I think today's discussion shows once again that we have different perspectives in this Parliament. And in this House, we always have discussions about how we should regulate matters, steer matters, freedom should be curtailed through DSA, and it sounds like the same is true here for crypto. We should make sure that we can curtail it. But the way we see matters is that we have free citizens that are in a position to make their own choices and choose their own currency. And I take the view that cryptocurrency really is the means to be against autocratic states, to move away from the state and from an European Union which is over-regulating.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Brown, seat 857, please.
God bless Bitcoin. Thank God for cryptocurrencies. In this world of oppressive doctrines, where people have less and less of freedom, this is probably the only way we can survive and get away from this massive criminal fraud that central banking is. You say greed, you are greedy with your schemes like Green Deal, Blue Deal, which are nothing else but nothing less than over-regulation and over-taxation. So get away from free people who take financial risk and they have to take it to escape your inefficient and oppressive policies. Thank you very much.
Time is over, please. The next speaker is Mr. Andriukaitis, seat 308, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Commissioner. Really, it's great to welcome all of you here, and it's a great thing. Somebody talked about that God bless cryptocurrency, but God not only blessed, but also gave 10 commandments. So regulation started from God. So I really wish that you don't forget that. Also, talking about greed and speculations, money laundering, of course, these are great vices. But please remember what happened with the bank crisis when banks collapsed, and then you had to turn to national governments. And when crisis also happened with national banks and cryptocurrencies, you also turn to national governments. When you speak about freedom, please remember bitter consequences, because then you need to really look for support from national governments.
This round is Ms. Ivanovici-Sosuska for 1 minute, please.
Mulțumesc.
Thank you. I've seen that you are very annoyed by the fact that Donald Trump has his own Bitcoin. Good for him. Why don't you do the same? Oh, you love banks, the oppressive banks. As a lawyer, I have seen how the banks mocked their customers, left them without homes, without lands. People committed suicide because of the banks. And you want to have a monopoly on Bitcoin to make very bad regulations, because you won't be ever able to guarantee that a person or a company acts honestly and professionally. Actually, no company can act honestly and professionally because of your taxes. I remember the Romanian state, in order to stop me during the pandemic to fight against masks and vaccination, they blocked all my accounts and took all my money from the banks and gave me and fined me with 30,000 euros so that I can be controlled and have no money to raise my children. Bitcoin is freedom.
And then we will wrap up this debate with the Commission and Commissioner Brunner. Please, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, what an interesting discussion, and God bless Europe, I would say. And I would like to conclude maybe this discussion by saying that we, of course, remain strong supporters of international standards for crypto. These represent a common set of principles around which jurisdictions around the world can converge, and these standards ensure at the end an appropriate policy framework for crypto markets, allowing innovation, yes, that is very important, to take place while ensuring that risks are appropriately mitigated. And with this EU MiCA regulation, all of you and most of you were talking about, Europe is the first major jurisdiction to achieve compliance also with international crypto standards. However, the Commission is well aware that our efforts alone, or even a partial international effort, cannot ensure that the risks posed by these global crypto markets are adequately addressed, and it is therefore crucial that the adoption of international crypto standards continues to grow. The US, that was mentioned as well, as a key partner, of course, in promoting the adoption of international standards, and we therefore do hope that the new administration will act as a catalyst for further progress in bringing regulatory clarity to crypto asset markets in the United States. And we would expect that any new policy and regulatory developments in the US fully, of course, reflect international standards. Thanks again for the discussion and for giving the Commission also the opportunity to participate in this very important exchange. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Also very big thanks to you, Mr. Commissioner, for being here and taking part of this debate. So now the debate is closed and the sitting is suspended for a few minutes, and it will resume at 12 o'clock with the vote. See you later, colleagues.